Plus-size representation in movies has long been an issue, one that persists through the ages while adapting to elude progress. From fat suits to stereotypes, Hollywood is inclined to either sidestep casting plus-size actors altogether or portray them as unworthy of love and respect, often regulating them to the role of the villain or the subject of ridicule. Men may face slightly more acceptance, but are often limited to characters like the funny guy, lazy dads, or grumpy old men. Women are typically cast as the cheerful best friend or shy dork. In both cases, they remain in the background, rarely seen as desirable or worthy of being the central focus or love interest in a story. These problematic portrayals range from characters donning fat suits like Monica, or Schmidt, or Patty, or Killa, or Penguin, or Baron, to the offensive depictions of characters like Sierra Burgess, Immortal Joe, Charlie, or the entire short horror film encapsulated in X is for XXL. Now, this is not to say all representation has been bad. We have had a few good ones recently with characters like Dumplin', Tracy, Isaac, and Jim Hopper. However, I think it's worth noting that all these characters, aside from Jim Hopper, come from something before their movie or TV depictions. So while we are getting better, there is still so much further we have to go. When was the first time you saw yourself in movies, if you consider yourself represented in movies?
I honestly don't think I've ever really fully seen myself represented in movies. I don't know, growing up plus size has been kind of like, you can see parts of your personality in movies, but as like a full rounded like character representation, I would not say I've seen myself represented in movies very well.
I remember identifying very closely with Carrie-Anne Moss, his character of Trinity in the Matrix films. Even though I don't look like her, she looks like my mental image of myself. Even though that's not who I really am, that's who I imagine myself to be.
What are some tropes you think of when you think of plus-size characters in media?
Whenever there's plus-size characters in media, it becomes their entire personality that they're plus-size. If there's a plus-size character, they're either the butt of the joke for being plus-size, or their entire character arc is them being insecure about being plus size, or something revolving around nobody would ever want them because they're plus size.
Both men and women are often portrayed as funny. The fat characters are almost always funny. They're either played for comic relief or they are actual comics. I had a roommate in college who was plus sized who commented that when people first meet her, they always expect her to be jolly. She's not. She's mean and cranky and ornery all the time. And it always surprised people when they got to know her that she was not, Mrs. Claus.
What are some of your favorite and least favorite representations of plus-size people in media?
I was actually just looking at something about the Barbie movie having just a plus size character in the movie that was just she just was plus size. There was no thing about her character that was she's plus size Barbie. She was just Barbie, and I found that to be really cool.
My favorite is in Spy, played by
Melissa
McCarthy. She's wonderful.
I would say in Gilmore Girls, Suki.
Mm-hmm.
She's a plus size character that was never really they never talked about her weight, they never talked about her body. She just was plus size, and it never interfered with her finding love or anything, because I feel that's a very big trope. One of my least favorite tropes, the movie Sierra Burgess is a Loser. Hate that movie. The fact that it was portrayed that the only way that a plus size woman could find love would be through catfishing. Also, another good representation would be Dumplin'.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that felt more of an authentic story. like about like it's felt like a story written by a plus size woman.
Do you think plus size representation is getting better or worse?
Well, since Melissa McCarthy is working more recently than Mike Myers, I'd like to say it's getting better. But I suspect it will get better and worse as time goes on. I think both is happening simultaneously.
I'd say better. Just because, I mean, if you look at movies and shows from like 90s or like 80s or even early 2000s, there's really none.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you watch like early 2000s TV shows, there's like no plus size characters except for maybe like a dad. Like, and like Gossip Girl, Vampire Diaries, all of this, it's like there's no plus size characters in that. And so I would say there was a period of time where there were steps being made in the correct direction, just not well. But I would say they've definitely gotten better. I feel like you see more and more just like women who look real.
Where would you like to see plus size representation go in the future?
This sounds so like mundane, but I just want there to be a rom-com with a plus size female lead where her entire personality is not about being plus size. Like,
she doesn't get a head injury.
And she doesn't get a head injury, and he isn't like or whoever he or she is not forced into like forced proximity, forced to love her because like he doesn't know what she looks like or that kind of thing. Like somebody like a classic rom-com, but the female lead is plus size. Like that is like, oh, that's all I want. And like I feel like that once we get to that point, it's like I want it to be something that's also largely accepted by like community. Like something that comes out and everybody's like, yeah, okay. Like that's where I want to get. Because it's hard when like you're watching like a movie about like a plus size woman and it's just being like thrown in your face all the time that it's like, but she can't because she's fat. Oh, yeah. But you can't love her because she's plus size. You know, like remember that. And it's like, okay, then you just keep like getting reminded in your brain like, oh, so the only time I will be lovable is in this very niche scenario with like a very niche kind of guy.
I'd like to see plus size actresses doing everything. So I want to see plus size women in romantic comedies and also in dramas. Just have them do everything.
I just want it to get to a point where there can be like plus size representation in media as like the norm, and people aren't like having a lot of backlash against it.